Hey guys, I'm Captain Mike and this is Whiskey and Literature, and tonight we're drinking bourbon. Cheers. So good. In 2023, Redwood Empire released their small lot series with 3 new whiskeys. Foggy Bourye, which is a single malt. Screaming Titans, which is a wheated bourbon, and I do have that one. And then tonight's pour, Redwood Empire Devil's Tower, a high rye bourbon. And no pussyfooting around tonight. Let's just get to the specs and stats and then get to the whiskey. Like all Redwood Empire products, this is a fairly plain bottle, but a really nice label. The artwork is great, but more important is the information on the label. And I do wish more distilleries would be upfront and transparent and just tell us what's in the bottle. Let's go through this. High rye bourbon. What does that even mean? In Kentucky, that probably means you're 15% rye or greater, but the Devil's Tower is rolling in here tonight with 45% rye, 51% corn, and just a smidge of wheat and malted barley. It says toasted and char 3, 25 barrels in this lot, which is a pretty small lot, and that's half as many barrels, 50, that are in the Screaming Titan, and it's pretty close to what's in the Foggy Bourye, which has 27 barrels. It's bottled at a nice 99 proof. I think really 100 to 110 is almost a perfect proof point. 99 is almost there. Batch 1, of course. The label on the back is relatively just the typical propaganda, hoopla, and whatnot, but there are 2 pieces of information that are on the back of the label, and that's why I think when you buy a new whiskey, you should read the entire label and just kind of see what's going on. The 2 most important things on the back of this label are that this whiskey is at least 5 years old, and more importantly to me, this is distilled and bottled in California by Redwood Empire. Redwood Empire, a lot like High West, has been on the sourcing whiskey train, if you will, since their inception, and I do think it's great when they start releasing products that have their own distillates in them. Good for you, Redwood Empire. Let's see, I did pay $79.99 for this bottle, and that slots in really well between their cask strength expressions and their bottled and bomb products. So, all right guys, enough facts. Let's get to the whiskey. Devil's Tower High Rye Bourbon. It's been sitting in the glass here for a while. It's a nice color, fairly light. A couple little swirls. There are quite a lot of legs. They're not totally just slamming down there, but lots of legs, and they're just nicely running down. Not crazy viscous, but visually an appealing bourbon. Anyway, I have had a couple pours of this whiskey already. It's I knew I was really gonna like the Devil's Tower when I saw the list of the small lot series. I knew this was really more my jam, even more than the Foggy Bourye and the Screaming Titan. It's a nice nose, bright and present. It's really saying, hey, there's whiskey in here. Sometimes I'll nose a whiskey, I'm like, I'll check the glass. Is there even any whiskey in there? But not so with this one. It's all there for you. Nice sweetness. It's like a nice honey sweetness with some floral notes. It's almost like we can call it maybe a honeysuckle. I grew up in South Carolina, had a big hedge between me and us and the neighbors there, and big honeysuckle, and kind of that's some of the notes going on in here. It's like a honey floral note. There's definitely some spice in there. It's like a tingly pepper. Not a lot of alcohol in the nose. Apple, maybe like a nice green apple. And some nice caramel notes. It's a very nice nose. It's there for the asking. Again, bright and present, and all those nice bit of sweetness with some spice notes. Anyway, cheers again. Initially, it's just that sweetness again. Just some nice honey notes, followed by some brown sugar. That's just initial nice big burst of sweetness. But that's followed almost immediately by an intense burst of spices. Again, that's those notes from the nose. It's just a peppery note with some rye spices in there as well. It's not super chewy. That bit of floral note is not there. It's not that I had on the nose. It's not really present on the palate. That second sip was definitely more just a super brief burst of that sweetness, but then it's almost really just taken over by that spice, just almost overwhelming that sweetness. It's a nice balance, that initial burst of sweetness, but then we get that rolling peppery spice coming in. It is a bit astringent, which I don't mind. It's a nice drying bit there on the mouth. I almost feel like there is a bit of a Scotch-like quality to this whiskey, and I did try and film this video last night, but I hadn't eaten for like 5 hours. I got home from work, I had just a little pour of whiskey, and then by the time I was getting done with this video last night, I was slurring my speech quite a bit. So this is take 2 on the Devil's Tower. But last night and tonight, I still feel like there is an underlying thread of a Scotch-like quality to the whiskey, and it's really hard to pin that down or to really describe what that's like. But if you've had Scotch, and I assume you had, you perhaps know kind of what I'm talking about, and it's not overtaken the whiskey, but there's just a thread of that through there. Take that or leave it, or take it as you may. But really, it's just some sweetness followed by that spice, and I think it's a really nice balance, but just that bit of drying as it's just sitting here and finishing. Not really a long finish. I'm not getting a lot of warmth coming down, but the heat from the spice, it's almost like a less of a rye or a peppery spice, more like a well, it is kind of a peppery spice, but not like pepper, but like a pepper. Just a bit of more heat just kind of building as it just sits there on my palate. So it's really nice. So I'm going to read from their website. Redwood Empire's website says, "This is the perfect blend of spicy and sweet. This bourbon is as versatile as it is complex." Now, perfect is a really high bar, I think, to set. But I think the Devil's Tower is a pretty nice blend of that sweet and the spice. Is balanced, I think, really well. This is definitely a nice bourbon to sip neat, as I'm doing tonight, and I think the 99 proof and the flavor profile would really shine pretty well in a cocktail. Now, when I first saw the notes for this, I thought this would be a lot like a High West bourbon, but then looking at the High West bourbon again, I realized that's quite a bit lower than I really thought about as far as the rye content on that. And it's probably a lot more like the High West Bourye. And atypical for High West, they don't share with us the mash bill for this blend, but they do call it Bourye, so I figure it's gotta be somewhere pretty close to a 50-50 bourbon and rye blend. It doesn't say it's a bourbon, it says it's a blend of straight whiskeys. So, but this is one of my favorite whiskeys, and it's no surprise that I also really like this Devil's Tower from Redwood Empire. Now, I was considering, like, what is the difference between this and the Lost Monarch, also from Redwood Empire? And the mash bill for this is 45% rye and 55% corn. So there's no malted barley and no rye in this whiskey. And this is bottled at 90 proof. So, but it doesn't have any of that, again, malted barley in the rye. It's also lower proof, and it's only aged to at least 2 year. That's a 3. You hit that age, you know, guys. So it's aged at least 3 years old. And also, this is all Redwood Empire. This says it's bottled by Redwood Empire in California. So I'm definitely assuming that there's some distillates in here that are not Redwood Empire. So that definitely makes it distinct from the Devil's Tower. But I think if you like the profile of Lost Monarch or a Bourye, you're definitely going to appreciate as well the Devil's Tower. Even though I will say these are all 3 pretty distinct whiskeys, not only on the flavor profile, but also on the price. You're talking 45 bucks more for this bottle over this. This was about 80 bucks. This is about 125. The Lost Monarch, you can get these pretty cheap. I think probably 30, 35 bucks. This is, of course, really available. Bourye, I've not seen anywhere except in Utah. If you can find it where you're at, great. This is definitely a difficult bottle to find. And the Devil's Tower, I've only ever seen it on the shelf one time as well. So definitely a difficult also bottle to find. But I am super happy to have this bottle on my shelf. I'm looking forward to get deeper into it. If I can find a second bottle, I'm gonna pick that bad boy up. And I think if you find one on the shelf, you should as well. My guys, that's it for tonight. If you enjoyed the video, like it, subscribe to see more of my content. Again, I do both books and whiskey reviews. But for now, my friends, you know what to do. I hope you're reading something good and drinking something great. Turn the page and stay thirsty, my friends. Cheers.